Hey, everybody. Welcome into a Friday edition of the Slate here to wrap up, well, the work week for many of you anyway. Sorry if you got to work over the weekend or later on tonight. That may fit the bill with one Matt Lamarca here. We are going to get into a lot of fun stuff. It's mostly a baseball show. That's the way it works on Fridays. But today is a little bit different because, of course, if you've been paying attention, the DraftKings Week 1 NFL salaries are out in the lobby. Join the millionaire contest. Make a lineup. Make tons of lineups over the course of the weeks to come to get you ready for football with training camp underway. It's an exciting time. I am Adam Kaufman. Lamarca, I mentioned. Steve Buchanan's here as well. They're always here on Fridays. How are you guys? Good. I'm glad we did that. Great. All right.
I always let Bukes go first, you know? I know that technically I was introduced first. I know
maybe Bukes is going all diva on us the way Reed does. Reed gets upset.
At this point.
Reed gets upset when I don't like individually single people out. Like, Reed, how are you today? Jeff, how's it going? Maybe that's what Bukes' problem was.
You know what it is? The guy goes on like the PGA tour and gets all diva-ish. It gets to these guys' heads sometimes. It's pretty sad.
There's the MLB Network guy.
Yeah.
To answer your question, though, Mr. Coffin, I am wonderful. I'm excited that football is around the corner. We need it. Basketball is now like far enough in the past where the free agency and stuff has calmed down. Like we're in a rut. The golf isn't particularly exciting at the moment. We need something. And luckily that is the smell of training camp getting underway.
That's usually a stinky smell of those locker rooms. I can't believe you're not glued to the Rocket Mortgage. Shame on you. Bukes, I know from your
like
many
6 golfers in that event.
Tony Finau at the top of the list. I know, Bukes, from your many MLB Network appearances, the aforementioned, that you are all locked in when it comes to Major League Baseball. And it's a hefty docket here on a Friday. 13 games on the night slate, never mind the couple that start during the 6 o'clock hour as well. Everything is available to us with regard to the DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's start there. We will get to some DFS as well. Is there one game in particular that is jumping out at you that you see a favorable, whether it's a run line or money line or whatever it may be, that you say, I've got to have a piece of the action for this game?
Yeah, I think it's quite surprising that you can get the Cardinals on the run line tonight at almost even money against the Nationals. Nationals are the worst team in the league on the run line, whether it's favorites, which they usually never are, by the way, underdogs, they still can't get it done. They're losing by multiple runs in these games. Then you get the Cardinals, they get all their bats back because we're back in the United States. Nolan Arenado can play. Paul Goldschmidt can play. Doesn't matter about your vaccination status here in the United States, you can play. And that's what we want to see. Canada's, got all these rules. They got all these rules that are not meant to be broken. So they couldn't have those guys play. But now they're back here. They can get both their guys back in, going up against Anibal Sanchez, who's only made 2 starts so far, 10 innings in those. He's been walloped in both of them already. So Cardinals -1.5, -105. That feels like a pretty good bet to me.
Maybe if all those guys were traded to the Yankees, they would just get vaccinated.
Well, that's what they say. Andrew Benintendi, now he's a big vaccination guy.
Yeah, big, huge proponent. What about you, Lamarca? Is it this game? Is it another one?
So I want to just point out, this is something I brought up recently on a different show that we have done, but the Marlins versus the Mets, this game is at 6:40, so it's not on the main slate, but Sandy Alcantara will be pitching for the Marlins. They're actually even money on the money line, making the Mets slight favorites. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Alcantara is good enough that the Marlins should still probably be favored here. But if you go under that pitcher props tab,
happy to do it for you.
You can get Alcantara to record a win at +165. So he normally pitches deep enough into the game that he is going to factor into the decision. Now, granted, that hasn't happened recently. He's got no decisions in 2 of his past 3 starts, and the other one was actually a loss. But he continues to pitch 7+ innings basically every time he takes the mound. So I really like that disparity, right? If you think the Marlins on the money line are a decent bet at even money, I think Alcantara at 160 +165 becomes like an outstanding value.
I'm just impressed. You guys don't usually hit me with player props, at least not this early in a show.
So can I give you some?
That's one that I look for basically every time Alcantara pitches.
There you go.
So I just want to point out something as well, because this is also something else that you can basically say you think the Marlins are going to win. If you go to the game props
Mm-hmm.
and you scroll down, they have, well, the Marlins, because they're the home team here, bat in the bottom of the 9th inning. So yes is minus 220. No, so they don't need to because they're winning, is at plus 160. So it's also kind of an interesting way to look at that as well. There it is right there. If you like the Marlins to win this one, it's just another a layer of that. Lamarca's got something to say. I feel like he's got something to say. But I just thought that was
you're basically saying that the Marlins are going to be winning heading into the 9th inning and not blow a save.
correct. Yep, correct.
That's what that line says. Because there are definitely scenarios where the Marlins can win this game and bat in the 9th inning. So you're taking away that outcome.
Are you not presuming that to be a
similar bet to what I laid out with Alcantara, I think.
Well, it's just, you want to set up a single game parlay of sorts, create different options for you that all fit the same vein, obviously. We see people in the chat. Hello, it's good to see you. Crypto Panther, Miguel, among others. If anyone has any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, we'll get to NFL a little bit later on. We're here with you until just about 6 Eastern, although there are no Madden Sims tonight to let you people know, but they'll be back with you over the course of the weekend. Just sticking with Major League Baseball here, and again, we can bounce around. We can look at DFS, DraftKings Sportsbook as well. Again, it's a busy slate, and just to pull it up for everybody looking at it as well, I want to make sure we get the full board up here as it takes its time to load. But in terms of, if there's one game that you would target, Bukes, that you're expecting just a ton of offense to kind of double us into DFS a little bit, a game that you think is going to comfortably hit an over, there are going to be a lot of solid performers, where are you looking?
Yeah, if you go to the Phillies and Pirates, so here's a little thing here. Hit daily specials and then go back to game lines. For whatever reason, there we go. For whatever reason is loading that way. Shout out to DraftKings Ops if you could fix that, and the engineers if you could do that, that'd be great. Phillies and Pirates over under, and this one is set at 8. A little confused by that. Feel like that should sail over 8. I think we could see double digits in this one, especially with the pitching matchup. You have Bailey Falter, who has not been good as a starter. You have Jose Quintana, who has not been good really since the month of June. There's a shock. Quintana started off well. All of a sudden, people are like, oh, he'd be a great trade candidate. Now you don't hear his name come up at all. Why? Because he stinks again. Because that's just the type of pitcher he is, right? But, you got the Phillies, who are the second best team in the league, hitting the over, only trailing the Cincinnati Reds, which seems to be a weird thing, but the Reds are the best team at hitting the game total over in Major League Baseball. But you look at Quintana and you look at the numbers that he's had. He gave up a total of 13 runs for the month of April and May combined. He has gone way over that since the month of June. 27 runs allowed since the month of June. This Phillies team is a strong team against lefties. They hit lefties extremely well. I talked about Falter, not a great starter, 5.26 ERA through 25 2/3 innings as a starter for the Phillies this year. So I look at that total, confused by it as 8. So not only I'd be taking the over on that one, that would be a game that I'd also be looking to stack as well, particularly from the Phillies side, to go up against Quintana and then whatever comes out of that Pirates bullpen tonight.
What do you think, Lamarca?
My favorite over is probably Royals Yankees. It's set at 8.5 right now. The Yankees have Garrett Cole on the mound, so you don't expect the Royals to do much scoring, but I think the Yankees have a chance to cover the 8.5 by themselves here. We know how good they are offensively. They have a ton of just really strong right-handed batters, and they will be facing a left-handed pitcher tonight in Chris Bubik. 5.53 ERA this season, 5.72 xERA. He's not a good pitcher. The Yankees rake. I'm not overthinking this one. I think if the Royals can score 2 runs in this game, the Yankees will get us the rest of the way there.
Manny, we're going to start with you on this one because Bukes, I'm certain, will find this question dumb. So we'll let him react second.
Love it.
If there's one thing that you guys know when it comes to baseball, I like BVP. But what I like more than BVP across all sports, I like to take the walk down narrative street. As we get closer to the MLB trade deadline, which is Tuesday, 6:00 Eastern time, you're going to have, certain players, certain teams. It's, looking to prove certain things, whether it's, keep us together, don't be sellers, blah, blah, blah. There are all sorts of different little, rabbit holes you can take yourself down in that respect. Do any of them catch your eye from a betting perspective? Are there any teams that you would look at and say, this team is, if you believe in extra motivation, maybe you don't even believe in that as a concept, but if you believe in this team is out to show its management shouldn't quit on them before the deadline, and these guys are going to perform better and blah, blah, blah. You know where I'm going with this. Is there a game that fits that mold?
Yeah, I don't buy that narrative. I mean, it's nice. It's something that it's a nice story to tell yourself, I guess, if you root for a team that plays in Boston.
No. Honestly, I wasn't even talking about Boston there. I don't know what the hell Boston's going to do. I wasn't even talking about the Red Sox with that question. There are a bunch of teams you could get into there.
Here's what I will say. I think that when you get to the time of the year where it's the trade deadline, you have to be careful about playing anyone who is rumored to be on the trade block.
Sure.
And that is, littler names like Ian Happ for the Cubs, Wilson Contreras for the Cubs, but it applies to guys like Juan Soto and even Shohei Ohtani too. Do I think that they will get traded? No, I don't think that they will get traded before the deadline, but there's a chance. And if that happens, they can get pulled out of games early. So you need to keep that in mind when you are building your DFS lineups, when you're placing your bets. Just be cognizant of all the news out there involving, potential trade targets.
Bukes, would you care to insult this question before I move on to the next one?
I'll insult the question by not even acknowledging the question. So keep going.
Fair enough. I wasn't even going to go there, Lamarca, but you guys brought up Shohei Ohtani. Obviously, there was the report that came out that the Angels, in the unlikely event they deal him in the first place, as you acknowledged, they'd be looking for an organization's top 4 prospects. I tweeted out when I saw that report, take them all. Take the entire farm system. Take all the levels. You can have future picks as well. You can have everything for Shohei Ohtani. I would love to have that guy on the team that I root for. Is there any chance that the Angels actually move him somewhere?
I think there's a chance. Again, I think you do it more in the off season because it gives, you more options, more candidates. Right now, you're limiting yourself to teams who paint themselves as contenders. In the off season, you can inquire with all 29 other teams. But you can't be the Angels and have just this massive, massive payroll and continue to win 75 games a year. Something has to change. And I would personally be looking to trade Mike Trout before Shohei Ohtani, but Trout's hurt at the moment. And some teams may balk at taking on his contract, as crazy as that sounds. Ohtani is probably the more desirable trade piece at this point. And if you can get 4, 5, 6 top prospects from another team, I think you have to consider it as the Angels, right? You're going nowhere. Every year it's you tell yourself, oh, we've made this move. We brought in Anthony Rendon. We brought in whatever pitcher, Noah Syndergaard. It's every year they try and put the Band-Aid on the bullet hole, and it's just not a strategy that works. They need a complete teardown.
Bukes, you want to weigh in on Ohtani, or just in general? Do you think, obviously Benintendi is, people sort of mock the idea of him being an all-star, but technically he was an all-star. Is there going to be a big name that does move in the next few days?
So it feels like of the two, Soto is the one that's more likely to be traded. They've basically broken it down to there are 4 teams who seem to be in the quote-unquote sweepstakes, get them, and they're all on the West Coast. It's the Dodgers, it's the Padres, it's the Mariners, and it's I'm forgetting the other team, but there are 4 teams that are basically in the final 4 here. Oh, the Cardinals too. It is the Cardinals. That's the other team. You're right. Thank you. Yeah. I threw myself out by saying they're all West Coast teams. The Cardinals, yes. And those are all farm systems that can, I don't want to say afford to get Soto, but those are the ones that are the deepest that they can get there. When it comes to Ohtani, he's also like a special breed because, he's also under contract. He's still in arbitration. He's not set to be a free agent for another 2 years, but it really comes down to the Angels. The Angels should be looking to trade him. The Angels should do everything they can to trade him and overhaul their farm system and just start over. And Lamarca brought up a great point too about the contract for Trout. The contract for Trout was so well deserved, but in 2030, let's just say he's due $35.4 million.
Hmm.
You know how bad that contract is going to look by the time we get to 2030 because he will be.
The way things have gone.
They all do, though. They all do at the end of those like 10, 12, 15-year deals.
No, of course, but Trout is 30 years old, which is not really old in the grand scheme of things, but in baseball, you start to creep up there a little bit, and he's under contract for 8 more years. So when it comes to attractiveness and team control and all that, it's absolutely Ohtani, but the Angels, just to further prove how stupid of a franchise this is, will do nothing, stand pat, and hope that they can maybe make some offseason moves to further, bring this team back from the dead. But let me tell you, that division is getting stronger and stronger, and the Angels are falling further and further behind.
Let's not forget either, and it's really not relevant, in terms of a longer conversation, but the fact that like Mike Trout was a free agent, he elected to sign a long-term deal with LA. Ohtani, we don't know how he feels when it actually comes time that he can go somewhere else.
Oh, he better go somewhere else.
Well, he better for the sake of baseball, let alone, his own livelihood, but find out obviously probably in years to come. But let's circle back to what's going on tonight. Obviously hit on some DFS daily fantasy. We haven't done that yet. Here, just an example of a contest you can find in the lobby, the MLB 300K relay throw, $15 to enter. Again, 13 games. There are a lot. Who's the favorite pitcher tonight, Lamarca?
Well, the clear chalk, if you're paying up at pitcher tonight, is going to be Garrett Cole. I mentioned that matchup against the Royals. I did say I like that game to potentially go over, but it's because of the Yankees bats, not the Royals bats. The Royals are not going to score very much against Garrett Cole. He's one of the best pitchers in the league. He's playing great this season once again. Not a great start in his last outing, but the 2 prior, 12 strikeouts against the Red Sox, 11 strikeouts against the Reds. The only issue with Cole is he's going to be very chalky. He's going to approach 50% owned, even on a slate with Coors Field. So if you're looking for a more contrarian option for tournaments, I understand that. But like in a vacuum, the best pitching option on the slate is Garrett Cole.
On board, Bukes?
Yeah, I have no issue with that. Because, you could say that the Royals are a fairly tough team to strike out. When it comes to Cole, it really doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter the matchup anymore. You can almost pencil him in for at least 7 strikeouts no matter the opponent that he's facing. That being said, if I go down a little bit, I love Alek Manoah going against the Tigers. You want to talk about a team that simply can't hit against righties. Well, who better to use than Alek Manoah, who is probably one of the more animated pitchers you can get in baseball at this point.
3 punchies, let's go.
Oh, yeah. Talking at the All-Star game, barking at guys hitting under 200 on the Red Sox. I'll take all that stuff all day, man. That stuff just hypes me up. Even if it gets
baseball personality, man.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it's against a team I root for, I'll take barking at a guy hitting 198 for the season and tell him to sit down. Like he sit down many times, but Noah's going to let you know he's going to sit down now too. But going against this Tigers team, very prone to striking out, have the lowest WOBA and WRC plus against righties. Put that all together against Manoah, who's been truly like nearly untouchable this entire season. This month alone, he has the highest ERA of any month he's had this month, and it's at 2.54. Guy's been ridiculous. So
I love Manoah too. I think that's a great call, Bukes.
If he's in the midst of the worst month of the season and his ERA is 2.5, not much to think about here. Give me Manoah. 9,400, that's a steal, by the way. That's I'm surprised he's not in the 10K range.
So that in mind, obviously, you'll have multiple pitchers for your lineup. You guys both mentioned whether it's Cole being chalky or Manoah, even at his discounted rate, he's still expensive at 9,400 in the grand scheme of things. So if you're looking value, if you're looking at someone who's, let's say, sub 8K, I'll give you more wiggle room there. Lamarca, who stands out? Is there someone that you do like?
So I will say that I really like Martin Perez at 8,400. I know that does not exactly playing by your rules, but
nobody's in the vicinity.
He's been really good all year. And he gets this Angels team that is just stupid. Absolutely DOA. They're just dead on arrival. So I like him. Lance Lynn is going to be the popular guy in this range. He's 6,800. He's a roughly minus 200 favorite tonight against Oakland. they're the second worst team in the league behind maybe the Tigers offensively. So Lynn is going to be really popular at 6,800. I think if you want to go somebody slightly less popular for tournaments, I would just go $100 cheaper and pick up Alex Cobb. He's a really good, he's having a good year quietly. His advanced metrics are much more impressive than his traditional metrics, but he can rack up the strikeouts. His matchup against the Cubs is fine. I would prefer him as a tournament option, but Lynn is sort of the default guy in this price range.
A good thing about Cobb too is at least he's reliably going to give you the innings, regardless of what the performance winds up looking like. What about you, Bukes? Any names you want to add to the group?
Yeah, that was exactly where I was going to go with Cobb in the matchup against the Cubs. Like, I know they were on that 6 or 7 game winning streak coming out of the All-Star break, but if you look at the games there, aside from the 15 runs they put up against the Phillies, they weren't exactly crushing the ball. They were winning all these games by like 1 run. So it was like 4-3 or 5-4. So it wasn't like they were offensively like crushing it too, aside from that 1 game. So going against the Cubs tonight, don't hate that matchup at all. It's in San Francisco too, which you obviously that matters a lot as well. Cobb's been much better at home than he has been on the road, so you much rather him in San Francisco tonight. 6,700. That's really not a lot for him too. He's striking out less than a batter an inning, but we're like right there. He's like 8.5 K9, I think, on the year. So you really that's not much you have to worry about either. So at 6,700 overall, is he going to get you like 25 fantasy points? Probably not. But if you get away with like 17 to 19 at this point, you can't complain about that. He has a good chance to get the win too tonight, I think, as well.
You guys are sending Robbie Noble in the chat all over the map. First, he says, I'll build around Cole Manoah for show. And then adds, well, Cobb at home is a great pick. So he's very impressionable, Robbie Noble. You can send him whatever direction you want.
Well, here's the beauty of it, Robbie. You can make like 10 lineups and just do an abundance of options because unless you're playing single entries, there is never a time or day when I'm making one single lineup. So you have a plethora of options you can go to.
How many lineups do you think
we kind of buried the lead here, right? I mean, we've gone now however many minutes, but we have to talk about Coors Field. We have to talk about the Dodgers. The Dodgers are implied for 7.2 runs today. 7.2. It's just a crazy number. They were implied for 7.3 or so yesterday. And guess what? They scored 13. And they did it without a homer. Yeah. Which is even more impressive disappointing for fantasy, but impressive for real life. So you really have to ask yourself, do I want to get a piece of to get this Dodgers offense, or do I want to pay up for these stud pitchers? And I almost always am team pay up for pitching, but with the Dodgers, man, it's pretty close. It's pretty close because Chad Kuhl is not a good pitcher. The Dodgers are just so good offensively against right-handed pitching. You put them now in Coors Field, and this could get ugly.
Look at those last 4. Minus 1.6, 1.9, 9.9, 0.5. Just absolutely gross performance.
Now, he did have a 37.5 point start against the Dodgers.
He did.
In Coors Field. That is the flukest of all flukes that have ever fluked.
Complete game shutout. 3-hitter.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen today. No, that ain't happening today. And I know that's easy for us to say because that was such an absurd start, but and I'm trying to look right now if his FIP was 2.01 for that game, Lamarca. So I guess he was pitching well, but
he found something. I don't expect him to find it again.
They didn't check him for sticky stuff that game. That's what I'm going to say.
Up there, touching the bottom of the cap. All right. Well, what about the hitters? If again, DraftKings Sportsbook 11.5 runs is the over/under for that game. So if you're expecting there to be something of a slugfest at Coors, who are the guys you want to get a piece of DFS wise, Bukes?
Let me just say one thing, though. I am definitely staying away from Julio Urias going against the Rockies, though. His numbers across the board are fantastic. He's got a 2.72 ERA, 2.91 expected ERA. It's been great. But the Rockies at home against lefties are literally the best offense in baseball in that scenario. They absolutely crush lefties at home. So I know Urias has been great. You see some of the numbers here too that he's been good against his team in the past too as well. But that's one of those things that when with the numbers saying what they are against lefties, the Rockies are going to get to him at one of these games. They crushed him on opening day on his first start of the year.
Looking at the minus 6.9.
Yeah. So that was one of those starts. That was. I'm not saying that that's like the bar to set, but like I would not be surprised if Urias runs into one of those type of starts at some point against the Rockies. Because even if you look at some of these other ones, the last time out against them had a 1.50 ERA, but almost a 4.5 in that game. So like that was one that could have been one of those. So 9,800 for Urias tonight. It was a long-winded way of me saying I want nothing to do with him tonight against his Rockies team.
Well, at least, to his credit, I'm not saying it's going to repeat itself, but to his credit, late June last time he was at Coors, which is the second to last time he faced this team, 3 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. So It was better, a lot better than opening day.
Well, the bar wasn't very high.
I'm with Bukes. This is a terrible spot to pick because we're not even getting the Coors Field discount.
Right.
Like, he's like 9,600.
Sure.
So how I'm approaching the Dodgers today is that if you're gonna play the Dodgers, play the Dodgers. How does that sound?
That sounds good.
And I think that what I mean by that is it's very easy to look at the bottom of this Dodgers lineup, look at those price tags and say, I can stack Jake Lamb and Gavin Lux and Cody Bellinger and all these guys and still pay up for a stud pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, right? That's appealing. It's like having your cake and eating it too. But everybody's going to do that. And the reason these guys are so cheap is for the most part, they stink, right? Like none of these guys is having a very good year. Max Muncy's hitting under 200. Cody Bellinger hasn't been a good baseball player since 2018. Like if you're going to play the Dodgers, play the Dodgers, play Mookie Betts, play Trey Turner, play Freddie Freeman, right? Play those guys. That's what I would do.
3 straight double-digit fantasy games for Mookie Betts, just to throw that out there. $5,700 for him. All right, we've got about 10 minutes left in the show. And if, before we go to football, do you guys have any other baseball thoughts you want to make sure you get in? You're good? You're feeling good?
Yeah.
All right, good.
We're good.
Let's go football then. It's a big day, obviously, for DraftKings. It always is every, late July, early August when this rolls around. Week 1 NFL salaries being released, so you can look in the lobby. There are a bunch of contests that are available to you, whether it's classic, best ball, whatever you want to look at, showing you here. The one's going to be the most popular among the people, NFL $5 million fantasy football millionaire, $1 million to first place, not to mention a semifinal seat in the Tournament of Champions, or an entry anyway. $5 to enter for this one, and you got $5 million in prizes, as we said. And already there are more than 3,000 people that are in this contest, just announced earlier today. So it's a generic question, Bukes, but nevertheless, I'm going to start with it. What jumped out at you most when you looked at these salaries for week 1 as we sit more than a month away from these games?
Yeah, so we talk about Julio Urias not getting the Coors Field discount, but Tyreek Hill got the Miami Dolphins discount at wide receiver in week 1. 6,800. 6,800 for Tyreek Hill. That's just absurd. That's just crazy to me. And I know that, the chatter and the buzz has been about downgrading immensely at quarterback, going from Patrick Mahomes to Tua, and rightfully so. That is a big, massive downgrade. But if you can't tell me that this team is not going to scheme plays that fit Tua's and Hill's connection, and they're going to get Hill in open field and do what he does best, and that is run down the field in an open field and make players miss. 6,800 for Tyreek Hill, I thought was crazy. And the matchup, going against the New England Patriots. Let's make something clear. This New England Patriots secondary is not the New England Patriots secondary that we have seen in years past. J.C. Jackson is no longer on this team. He is on the Los Angeles Chargers. This is going to be a secondary that you are going to want to pick on throughout the season. So get that perception that the Patriots are secondary, because they are not anymore. First matchup of the year against Tyreek Hill. Good luck.
They should get gashed. I mean, no question about it. When you look at this, though, Bukes, and I agree with you, obviously, on Hill's salary and making him he'll be very chalky, obviously, come week 1. Sure. Assuming everybody stays healthy, though. if you're looking at this team in general, I mean, how tempted are you to even stack Hill and Waddle? Like, you look at what, Hill did all those years in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes, and there was always will it be a Hill game? Will it be Travis Kelce? Will it be both of them, obviously? But there was never another wide receiver in Kansas City at the same time as Hill of the ability of a Jalen Waddle. Like, these guys could create havoc together.
I mean, Travis Kelce was pretty much a wide receiver. He had
I get it, but it's a totally different skill set.
Kelsey's a different animal, though. Like he has like the tight end moniker. He's not a tight end. Right, he's anything but a tight end.
I'm just saying, Tyreek has shared.
He's bigger. He's not going to fly the way Waddle does. Like, I mean, you've got, I know, like, obviously Kelce has his downfield abilities, but that's not generally what he's looked at for. Right. Waddle, going back to what Bukes was talking about, with truly, like, what we don't know and certainly don't anticipate to be even a decent, let alone good secondary for the Patriots this season, or certainly to begin the year. I mean, you could have Hill and Waddle flying up and down that field in week 1.
They will be. Because that secondary stinks. When your top guy is Malcolm Butler, who you sat in the Super Bowl, it ain't going right.
Who retired more recently than that?
Right.
What about you, Lamarca? Just sort of a cursory early glance at the salaries.
So I'm looking kind of in the opposite direction of Steve here, right? I'm looking at the Chiefs' remaining wide receivers, because Patrick Mahomes is still the most expensive quarterback on this slate. The Chiefs are still, at least for the time being, implied for the most points on this slate, right? They're implied for 28 points. The total on this game sits at 53. They're only 3-point road favorites. A lot of really good things that we look for in fantasy all apply to the Chiefs, but all of their wide receivers are dirt cheap. So it's a situation we're kind of going to have to monitor throughout camp. Is it going to be Juju as their top guy? Is it going to be MVS? Could it be the rookie Sky Moore? Is this finally the Mecole Hardman breakout year? We've been waiting for it for like 3 years now. Maybe it finally happens. I don't know. Even if you wanted to look at Travis Kelce, I would imagine that Travis Kelce at 6,600 is cheaper than he has been he was for most of last year.
Well, I'll tell you, last year.
Pretty routinely, I think, priced in
generally he was over $7,000
or even 8. So now we have no Tyreek Hill. I think what I'm saying is be prepared for a lot of Chief stacks to be out there in week 1, and deservedly so, right? Like, we can speculate about what's going to happen with this Miami offense this year. Maybe Tua is better than we all think. Maybe Tyreek Hill can take him to that next level. But what we do know for sure is that the Chiefs are going to put a lot of points on the scoreboard. So it's a safe thing in the most uncertain week of the year.
They are. I mean, they are going to put up points, and I'm not even talking about week 1 in Arizona. It's going to be a potent offense because it has Patrick Mahomes, it has Travis Kelce, CEH is obviously really solid. But man, I don't know. Like, are we presuming too much success for these wide receivers? Like, to me, I'm looking at guys with an injury history. I'm looking at
I am very much a quarterback
Juju,
makes
MVS,
the receiver.
and Hardman is just gross. That is a gross trio to me.
Listen, as a Patriots fan, you should not be saying other teams have gross wide receivers, okay? You are not allowed to say that.
Here's how I'm thinking about
I'm allowed to say it as long as I don't sit here and totally pump the tires on the likes of Devontae Parker and Jacoby Myers and so on and so forth.
The way I think about it is look at Green Bay, right? For all the years that they have been really good offensively, they've had top wide receivers, right? They had Javon Walker. They had Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb.
Well, that's why Aaron Rodgers MVP odds are dumb. They're dumb.
These guys leave, they go elsewhere, they don't have the same impact, and then a new guy emerges to take their spot, like a Devontae Adams. Remember, Devontae Adams was a 2nd-round draft pick. He was not considered this can't-miss stud wide receiver. Right. I think that the quarterback when you are talking about guys as good as Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback makes the receivers and not the other way around.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
I will say, if you're talking about the Chiefs, though, I would not be shocked if Edwards-Helaire, as long as he's on the field, is a much more of a pass catching back than he has been in the first 2 years of the NFL. They are going to. You think so?
Yeah, because Jerick McKinnon's going to fill that role.
But here's the thing about McKinnon. The contract that he has with the Chiefs is a non-guaranteed contract. He is guaranteed $0. So
Okay.
it would not even surprise me if he doesn't even make the team coming out of preseason. There's nothing that they owe him.
I'll take that bet.
That's fine. That's fine. But here's what it is. And this sucks because like we do this every year. Ronald Jones coming on the team tells me that Andy Reid wants to use him as his main back, and Edwards-Helaire shifts to a more passing down back. That to me makes more sense than what we think might come out of it. That's just me trying to think further out of the box.
I think Ronald Jones is now Darrell Williams. And Jerick McKinnon remains Jerick McKinnon. You know, down in the playoffs last year, McKinnon was the guy that they counted on in their passing.
Right.
So
for sure.
I think he's earned that role regardless of who he is sharing the backfield with.
I guess the contract is just what's throwing me off the most about.
It's fair. We'll see, right? It's training camp. I've seen Chiefs beats reporters. One Chiefs guy says that Ronald Jones is going to be the lead back, and another one says that Ronald Jones isn't going to make the final 53.
Yes, welcome to training camp.
We're at that point of camp, right? Everything is possible. There's going to be so much time for us to just dive into and dissect every little itty bitty morsel that comes out of these.
Yeah,
it's going to be great. I can't wait.
Why are you looking up a guy that's not playing? What are you looking up Jimmy Garoppolo for? I saw that.
No. I was not looking at Jimmy Garoppolo. Where's Jimmy Garoppolo going to wind up before we get out of here? What roster is he on week 1, Bukes?
The Panthers.
where all quarterbacks go to die.
Right.
Have you seen the report that the only reason that San Fran hasn't released him yet is because they don't want Seattle to then be able to sign him. So they they apparently are worried about Jimmy G going to Seattle. But if you are any other NFL team, you can trade for Jimmy Garoppolo for a bag of footballs. This is
give us a 6th round pick.
The report that is out there right now. So it will be interesting to see. Will someone eventually send a late round pick to have Jimmy G as their backup? Or will San Fran eventually cut him and then he probably ends up in Seattle? Or will San Fran just cut off their nose to spite their face and just keep him as a backup behind Trey Lance all year? So Trey Lance has to play every single one of his starts under a microscope.
And what would they be worried about in Seattle? Did they upgrade their offensive line and I wasn't aware? He'll get murdered back there. Are you kidding me? He'll be done by week 2.
They just need something better than Drew Lock.
Well, it ain't Garoppolo, I'll tell you that.
How the mighty have fallen. All right. Well, you can bet over the course of the next month and a half, there's going to be a whole lot of content, be it here on the Slate, on the Sweat, obviously, weekdays, Monday through Friday, weekday mornings. We'll have a ton of NFL preview stuff. We already have, quite frankly, but a lot more DFS-wise now that the salaries are out for week 1. And obviously, as preseason games get underway in the not-too-distant future and injuries and things like that start to shake things up. But again, you got a 13-game MLB slate to pay attention to, and by all means, good luck with your bets, your lineups, all that good stuff. Eamon, our producer, Daniel, our technical director, thanks for a hard week out of them. Madden Sims earlier in the day that Daniel was busy doing as well. He's got the night off, as do the rest of you, but Madden Sims do resume tomorrow in Lamarca. Bukes, it is a pleasure, regardless of what you may think. It is always a pleasure. I hope you both have a great night.
Thanks, I guess.
All right. We'll see you later.